Today we'll be telling the story of St. Anthony of Zaccaria, whose feast is celebrated on July 5th. Anthony was born in the year 1502 in Rome, Italy, to noble parents. His uncle was the canon of the cathedral, so he was baptized the same day he was born. Because of his noble birth, Anthony was able to receive a great education, and because of his kind heart and desire to help people, he decided to become a doctor. Even as a doctor, Anthony cared about the health of his patients' souls, and in addition to medical care, gave spiritual advice. He practiced medicine for 3 years before deciding that God was in fact calling him to the priesthood. While working in Milan, he founded 3 religious orders, including one for men, the Barnabites, one for women, the Angelic Sisters of St. Paul, and one for married people, the Laity of St. Paul. Anthony saw the need to reform a society that had slipped away from Christianity and believed that the best place to start would be with the clergy and religious. He also revived the custom of ringing church bells at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon in remembrance of Christ's Passion and popularized Eucharistic adoration for the laity. St. Anthony Zaccaria died at the age of 36 and is the patron saint of all 3 of his orders, as well as the patron saint of doctors. Now it's time for our story. It seemed like no matter where Anthony walked in his hometown of Cremona, he could hear music playing. Gentle melodies always seemed to be drifting on the breeze, and it made him smile. The town held a certain attraction for musicians, and Anthony couldn't help but think about one of his musician friends. He played with such skill and confidence. It was a wonderful thing to see. Lately, Anthony did not feel very confident at all. He had spent the last 3 years as a doctor and loved helping people. But as time went on, he felt less sure about his vocation. He was a good doctor, very skilled at helping people. But really, he wondered if God was calling him to the priesthood instead. But Anthony didn't feel like he was worthy to be a priest. A priest was something special, someone very holy, and well, Anthony just didn't feel like he was good enough. As he walked down the street towards his house, Anthony felt completely confused. He felt both called to be a priest and also not good enough to be one. He didn't know what to do. When he reached the end of the block, he should have turned to the left to go home, but instead he decided to make a visit to the cathedral and pray for a while. Praying always helped him to feel more at peace. Anthony pushed the big wooden doors of the cathedral open and knelt to pray. He told God all of his thoughts, fears, hopes, and dreams. He prayed and prayed. And by the time he left, Anthony felt much better. By the time he reached his home, he had decided he would visit his spiritual director in the morning. And Anthony felt like God was asking him to listen to what his spiritual director would have to say. Early the next morning, Anthony made his way to visit his spiritual director. The kindly priest listened to Anthony's problem and told him he would pray about it. Several days passed, and the 2 men met again, and his director said to him, "God calls you not to labor for the cure of the body, but for that of souls. Go and prepare yourself by study of the sacred sciences for the great mission God will entrust to you." Anthony was excited, but nervous. He hadn't felt like he was good enough to be a priest, but he trusted that God was answering his prayers through the advice of his spiritual director. So even though he had doubts about himself, Anthony studied very hard and prepared himself for the priesthood. Anthony was ordained, and the day came for him to celebrate his first Mass. It was a very special occasion, and St. Anthony was filled with gratitude that he had been able to fulfill his dream of becoming a priest. But he wondered what God thought. He hoped he was in fact doing God's will. The time for the consecration of the Holy Eucharist came, and as St. Anthony lifted the host and chalice in blessing, a beautiful light appeared around him, and angels appeared and surrounded him. The angels stayed, praying with him until the host and wine had been consumed. Anthony was shocked. He thought he was unworthy, but clearly he was wrong. God wasn't just okay with Anthony becoming a priest, he was rejoicing. God knew Anthony was the perfect man for the job. Everyone that was present at the Mass was amazed. The news of the miracle spread all around the town. This new priest truly must be something special if God would allow such a miracle to occur at his first Mass. The story of St. Anthony Zaccaria reminds us that even though we sometimes feel like we aren't good enough for what God is asking us to do, God knows that we are. St. Anthony Zaccaria, pray for us.